Shocking. What happened when this mysterious lake disappeared at 3 a.m. forever? When the clock struck 3, everything changed. The moon hung low, casting an eerie glow over the forgotten woods surrounding Lake Hollow. It was known for its dark waters, whispering secrets older than the town itself. Legend said that if you stood near the edge just after midnight, you might hear the lake's sorrowful cries. But nobody expected what would unfold that night. Within a blink, the shimmering surface evaporated into thin air, leaving a yawning, muddy chasm behind. The chill wrapped around the onlookers like a vice, their breaths visible in the frosty air, faces drained of color. "Did you see that?" shouted Rachel, her voice trembling. People gathered like moths to a flame, a ripple of disbelief coursing through the crowd. Scraggly branches scratched the sky, framing the scene like a horror movie. Underneath the sludgy bottom, tales of twisted skeletons and lost treasures surfaced in whispers. A man nearby, shaking like a leaf, clutched his girlfriend's arm, wide-eyed with fear. "It's a sign," he gasped, "something bad is coming." With every passing second, the tension thickened. Murmurs spread like wildfire, a blend of excitement and dread. "What does it mean?" asked a girl, clutching her phone tight, fearing what might be next. The darkness of the woods seemed to close in, as if alive, breathing around them. Shadows danced, flickering in the flicker of fading lampposts, spurring the crowd into a frenzied buzz. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads-up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Suddenly, a scream pierced the night, slicing through the thick veil of confusion. The crowd spun around, all eyes darting to a figure standing at the edge, the very spot where the water used to flow. No one had noticed him approach. He looked wild, hair matted, eyes glazed like he'd just woken from a deep sleep. "It's not gone forever," he rasped, a twisted smile creeping onto his face. "You'll see." Panic jolted through the crowd, heartbeats pounding like drums. What did he know? What lay beneath that eerily quiet surface now? Was it a curse, or perhaps something far worse lurking just out of sight? And with that, the air grew heavier, pregnant with questions that demanded answers, leaving everyone wondering what mysterious forces were at play. The man standing at the edge, with his wild hair and unsettling grin, sent shivers down the spines of everyone around him. Rachel felt a creeping dread settle in her stomach. Who was he? And why did he seem so unbothered by the unnatural disappearance of Lake Hollow? The crowd recoiled slightly as he took a step closer to the muddy pit, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling excitement. "You're too late," he proclaimed, laughter bubbling out of him like a man possessed. "The lake has chosen to reveal what has been hidden for centuries." "What the hell does that mean?" someone shouted from the back, voice trembling with fear. The tension in the air crackled like electricity. Was he mocking them? Did he know something they didn't? Ignoring the unrest, he continued, his voice growing more fervent. "The lake held secrets, dark secrets, and now they will all come to light except for you, standing there in confusion. Only those brave enough to dive into the unknown will find the truth." The crowd looked at one another, confusion morphing into unease. Rachel could see her breath fogging up the air as she whispered to her friend, "What if it's true? What if there is something we need to find?" "Are you insane?" her friend hissed back, her eyes darting between the man and the eerie hole. "You want to jump into that?" But the man stood there, the shadows playing tricks on his face. "You think this is a disaster?" he cackled. "Oh no, it's an awakening." His voice seemed to echo in the depths of the night, pulling at Rachel's curiosity. She felt a strong pull toward the edge, as if the air was magnetized, tingling with energy. Suddenly, a low rumble rolled through the earth. The crowd gasped, eyes wide. What was that? The ground beneath them vibrated, a deafening sound of scraping and shifting resonated from the pit. As if answering some unuttered call, shadows began to shift within the darkened cavity. That's just the wind, right? Someone murmured, voice shaky. But Rachel's heart raced in response to a deeper instinct. It felt alive. And the man's face morphed from glee to a knowing crease of anticipation. Then, out of the depths, something glimmered. A flash of silver caught the moonlight, something shiny, metallic, and pulsing with a heartbeat of its own. Something that looked eerily familiar, yet terrifyingly out of place. A chandelier? What is happening? Rachel's voice barely left her lips, knotted with fear. The crowd watched with bated breath, entranced by the bizarre spectacle. The man grinned wider, sensing their collective dread and curiosity like a predator reveling in the prey's hesitation. There's more. He shouted, eyes widened in delight. The lake has offered us a gift. The truth behind its disappearance continues. Before he could finish, a torrent of water erupted suddenly from the mud, splashing against their legs. It wasn't just water. Against the murky surface, jet-black forms began to rise, ethereal and otherworldly. The crowd shouted in a panic, stumbling backward away from the pit. Rachel's heart raced as she edged closer, drawn in against her better judgment. Whatever lay beneath the depths was calling to her, or was it a warning? As the crowd shuffled in chaos, whispers of long-forgotten legends floated in the air, wrapping around her descending thoughts. What had they awoken? And what had been chosen? Follow, if you dare. The wild man taunted, stepping back as the spectral figures swirled up from the darkness, writhed, and solidified into shapes. Shapes that looked eerily familiar. As the crowd gasped in unison, Rachel realized she would have to make a choice. She had to decide, stand back in fear or confront this terrifying revelation head-on. What truth would she uncover in Lake Hollow's haunting embrace? Would she be strong enough to face it, or would fear pull her away just in time? In that moment, the air thickened, holding its breath alongside her. What happened next would change everything. The air was heavy, charged with uncertainty and dread, as Rachel's heartbeat pounded in her ears like a war drum. Shadows danced before her, twisting and contorting into shapes that seemed to beckon her closer. She could hardly breathe, her lungs constricted with a mix of fear and thrilling anticipation. The crowd behind her erupted in chaos, their screams blending with the roar of the water that now surged violently around the pit. Stay back! Someone yelled, but Rachel hardly heard him. Her gaze was locked on the black forms emerging from the depths, a ghostly visage of memories long buried under the surface of the lake. She could feel the icy fingers of fate wrapping around her soul, pulling her towards the edge. Look! The wild man shouted, urgency lacing his voice. Every legend has a truth. The lake is showing you. Don't deny it. Dive into what you fear most. Was it madness or clarity? Rachel's mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. What if this was a chance to uncover a secret that had been hidden for generations? What if it could change everything? She glanced at her friend, who was wide-eyed, clearly torn between fear and curiosity. Rachel had to make a choice. With a sudden surge of defiance, she stepped toward the pit, the ground trembling beneath her feet. The air shimmered as if weighted by the enormity of the moment. Her pulse quickened as she reached out her hand to touch the cool surface of the water spilling over the edge. A strange energy flowed through her, igniting her senses. That's it! The man yelled, his voice laced with manic glee. Let it in. Let it take you. Before Rachel could fully process her decision, the ground quaked again, sending shudders through her legs. She saw the shapes swimming closer, dark figures evolving into something more tangible, a surreal fusion of light and shadow. The chandelier emerged fully now, suspended within the gloom, its glass arms glistening like stars against an onyx sky. Was it just a decoration? Or was it a key to unlocking the lake's secrets? Then it happened. With a deafening crash, a wall of water surged up, enveloping Rachel as she lost her footing. She plunged into the swirling depths, the world above disappearing in a chaotic swirl of colors and sounds. The cold enveloped her body, jolting her awake. Instinctively, she fought against the icy grip, kicking her legs, desperate for something solid. As Rachel surfaced, gasping for air, her heart raced not just from fear but from an inexplicable exhilaration. She looked around, realizing she wasn't alone. All around her, the shadows morphed into figures, pale and ghostly, their eyes wide with longing, staring at her as if she were the answer to a question older than time. What are they? She choked out, her voice echoing off the hidden walls surrounding the lake. They were remnants of an ancient past, reflective of the people who had disappeared, forgotten in the annals of time. But their intent was clear: a desperate need for release. Suddenly, faces materialized in the darkness, sorrowful eyes pleading for freedom. Rachel's breath hitched. Beneath her confusion lay an overwhelming urge to help, to uncover their stories, to set them free. But at what cost? Could she bear the weight of what she might find? Just as the thought crossed her mind, the wild man's voice boomed again, breaking the spell. You've made your choice. Will you help them or flee into the darkness of ignorance? Her heart raced, knowing the decision she faced was monumental. The haunting figures drew nearer, the tension thickening as she realized the real battle was not just against the fear, but within herself. Never had she felt so alive and terrified in equal measure. Could she wield the truth? Would she risk everything to uncover the mysteries of Lake Hollow? As the spectral crowd of faces surrounded her, Rachel understood that the answers lay deeper than she ever imagined. Now she had to decide: embrace the darkness or fight her way back to the light. The depth of the lake taunted her, whispering promises and threats simultaneously. What awaited her? Just beneath the surface? Her resolve hardened as she locked eyes with the swaying shadows. This was only the beginning, and what came next could drown her in revelation or doom her to despair. The shadows closed in like a velvet shroud, their presence overwhelming Rachel's senses. Her heart hammered in a frantic rhythm, each thud echoing against the engulfing darkness. She could see even more faces now, each one more desperate than the last. Their mouths opened in silent cries, stretching wide with unspoken tales of grief and longing. Rachel felt a jolt of icy terror lace her spine. She was in the cold depths of Lake Hollow, surrounded by the echoes of souls lost to time. What did they want from her? A surge of primal fear clawed at her throat. But beneath the fear, a flicker of compassion ignited. They needed her. Somehow, she could sense it. "Help us," came a faint whisper that floated between the figures. The voice was almost too soft to hear, yet it pulled at the strings of her heart, a delicate plea woven into the currents of water. "What do you want? How can I help you?" Rachel breathed, feeling the weight of the moment settle around her like a leaden cloak. As she spoke, the faces shifted slightly closer, their collective yearning hanging thick in the air. The wild man's eyes glittered with a terrifying intensity as he stood on the edge of the pit, his silhouette a shadowed enigma against the chaos behind him. "Only by knowing their stories can you free them," he shouted, his voice resonating against the walls of the cavernous lake. "Face the darkness, Rachel. Only then will the truth emerge." A chill crawled through her as the water rippled. Rachel took a deep breath, the cold stinging her lungs. She knew what she had to do, but doubts nipped at her resolve. What if these spirits were doomed souls? What if delving into their past ripped open wounds that were best left untouched? Yet, the flickering embers of hope within her urged her on. Slowly, she reached out towards the nearest figure, a woman with sorrow etched deep into her features. Eyes filled with an unending sadness met Rachel's, and for a moment, the world faded away. It was just the two of them, bound by a shared understanding. "What happened to you?" Rachel whispered, searching the woman's gaze for answers. As if in answer, the lake twisted around her, water swirling with a sudden force. Visions like vivid lightning pulsed before Rachel's eyes. She was no longer in the lake but standing on the banks of a distant shore, watching a village surrounded by thick trees. Children laughed, and life bloomed, but then darkness shadows fell. Fire engulfed the homes, and people screamed as they fled. Rachel staggered back, the vision shattering like glass. She gasped, pulling her consciousness back into the depths of the lake. The woman still stared, grief deeper than the lake itself radiating from her. "They burned our village, we never found peace," the woman sighed, her voice now louder, more defined. "Help us find what we lost. Free our spirits, Rachel." Rachel shivered but felt a new surge of courage. These weren't just shadows, they were memories, stories that deserved to be told. The weight of history pressed on her, but it felt oddly intimate, like a chance to connect with the very essence of humanity itself. Did she dare to believe she could change something so monumental? "What if I can help?" she asked, hope tinged with apprehension. In response, the lake began to glow, revealing more faces, more memories lining the depths. They surged toward her, trembling with anticipation, as if wanting to share their collective tale of loss, and just like that, Rachel understood, the darkness of the lake wasn't just about fear. It was about healing, about confronting the past to carve a path toward the future. Just then, the wild man's voice erupted above the rising commotion. "Unlock the secrets. Time is running out." The urgency hit her like a tidal wave. Rachel realized that the moment of reckoning was now. The choice hung heavy in the air: unearth the buried truths that could release the lost souls, or retreat back to the surface and ignore the cries of forgotten history. As the figures drew even closer, she felt the water shift beneath her feet. There was no turning back. With a determined breath, she prepared to dive deeper into the abyss of memory and horror, ready to embrace the secrets lurking in the shadows. Just as she was about to let go, a piercing scream rose from the depths, a sound full of anguish and desperation shattering the silence around them. What had awakened in the depths, and would Rachel have the strength to face it? The scream pierced through the still waters like a knife, jagged and raw, vibrating in Rachel's bones. A violent wave slashed across the lake, sending ripples that seemed to awaken dormant shadows. Panic surged through her. She looked around, frantically searching for the source of that insidious wail. The faces, those sorrowful faces, contorted deeper into despair as the scream echoed louder, filling the cavern with a cacophony of pain. "Help us!" they chorused, their voices intertwining in a haunting melody. Rachel's heart raced, pounding like a war drum in her chest. "Stay back!" she shouted, her voice trembling against the chaos. "What do you want from me?" But the spirits pressed closer, their hollow eyes darting fearfully as the water churned. Their urgency was palpable, a desperate plea that wrapped around her like seaweed, dragging her deeper into the dark. Rachel's instincts screamed at her to swim back to the surface, to the safety of solid ground, but she could feel the weight of their collective sorrow pulling her under. "Listen to their stories," the wild man's voice echoed, grounding her amid the surfacing chaos. "Only then can you release them." She nodded, determination replacing fear. "Tell me." She called into the abyss, ready to confront whatever horror had resurfaced. "Tell me your story and I promise to help." In response, colors erupted around her, swirling with vibrant energy. The lake transformed into a vivid canvas, showing glimpses of lives that once flourished but were now frozen in time. The visions twisted, revealing a young man running, his face twisted in anguish as flames raged around him. "They took everything from us," he shouted, his voice hoarse and desperate. Rachel trembled as the flames danced menacingly, age-old embers swirling through her mind. She could feel the heat, smell the charred wood, hear the crackling echoing against the rocky walls of despair. Her throat constricted. Who did this? Why? Jealousy. Betrayal. The man cried, his features blurring with pain. "We were betrayed by our own." Before Rachel could process his words, another vision shattered through the intensity. A group of villagers huddled together, their faces marred with fear and uncertainty as darkness descended upon them. The water surged, and Rachel felt suffocated, underwater yet overwhelmingly aware of their suffering. Every story, every betrayal, the echo of the woman from before broke through, her voice urgent now. It led to our demise. We wanted to trust. We needed help, but we were abandoned. Rachel's heart ached for them, the weight of their pain pressing against her chest like 1,000 stones. She took a shaky breath, recollecting her own battles, her hidden scars. These spirits, they weren't just stories of the past. They were reflections of her own grief, a shared humanity caught in an eternal struggle. Then let us do this together, Rachel declared, her voice rising above the tumult. Let us confront this betrayal and heal. Just then, the eerie silence returned, all the faces turning toward her as if they held their breath, waiting. Hope flickered like a candle in the wind as light began to seep through the darkness, illuminating their features. But before Rachel could feel the warmth of it, a shadow loomed above her, a hulking figure, grotesque and twisted, emerged from the depths. Its gaping mouth opened wide, and an eerie sound filled the air, a low, rumbling growl like thunder. Who dares to disturb our peace? The creature rumbled, the abyss itself seeming to buckle beneath its weight. Rachel's heart dropped. Did she just awaken something monstrous with her plea? She felt the ground shift beneath her, reality swirling away. Would she have the courage to face it? As the creature moved closer, its cold gaze locked onto Rachel, she understood this was only the beginning of the confrontation. What awaited her at the heart of the lake might reveal more than just lost souls. It might peel away layers of her own hidden fears. Could she confront the creature without losing herself in the darkness? Would the secrets the lake held set them all free, or condemn her to an eternity with the damned? The creature loomed, its massive form blotting out the faint light as it hovered close enough for Rachel to feel its cold breath. It was an unnatural darkness, suffocating and thick. Rachel's instincts screamed for her to flee, yet she stood rooted, a fierce determination flashing in her eyes. "Who are you?" she shouted, her voice strained but steady. "What do you want from us?" The growl intensified, vibrating through the water and shaking her very core. "I am the keeper of sorrow, of betrayal, and you dare to pry into these depths?" Rachel's heart thundered. "I'm not here to pry. I want to help. You were abandoned, left to rot. But that doesn't have to be the end." The darkness rippled, shifting uneasily, and for a moment, Rachel wondered if the creature was even truly listening. She could feel the weight of despair among the spirits around her. "You dare speak of hope in a world consumed by treachery," the creature boomed, its voice like an erupting volcano. "You have no power over the past. You cannot speak to the dead and make promises you cannot keep." Despair washed over her, but Rachel fought to stay afloat. "Then let me help you find peace. Tell me what you need." The creature recoiled slightly, as if her words struck a nerve. "You seek to offer salvation? What could a living soul know of our suffering? What could you understand of the bonds we shared before darkness consumed us?" She opened her mouth, but words faltered. She thought about her own battles, her own fears. "You're right, I don't know. But I know what it feels like to lose, what it feels like to feel completely alone." "Alone?" The creature tilted its grotesque head. "Join me in solitude. Feel the weight of your own regrets." Suddenly, the water around Rachel boiled with memories, each one cascading like a storm. Shadowy images of betrayal that had destroyed lives, dragged her into depths of pain so vast she thought she might drown. Every whisper of despair clawed at her heart, suffocating her will to fight. "No!" she gasped, breaking through the tumult with a raw scream. "This isn't how it ends. You are more than your sorrow." The spirits surged at her call, their mournful faces shifting to expressions of curiosity and hope. The creature shrank back, wariness flashing in its cold eyes. "Hope is a dangerous game, little one. The light carries its own shadows. Maybe, Rachel replied, raising her chin defiantly. But shadows can be cast away. Just let them tell their stories. Share their pain and in return, you can find calm. The cavern fell silent, the tension thick like a shroud. The creature hesitated, and Rachel took her chance. Let us break this cycle. The lake can be a place of healing. The growl subsided, replaced by a tense, reflective stillness. Every eye turned towards the dark being, an unspoken question hanging in the air. It was almost surreal, the echoes of the past intertwining with her plea for unity. Would this ancient keeper accept a living soul's offer? Or would Rachel's moment of courage seal her fate forever? As she stared into the creature's unyielding gaze, the echoes of sorrow lingered, merging with a growing flicker of hope. Rachel felt herself teetering on the brink. Would she dive deeper or be pulled under by the weight of despair? The beast fixed its gaze upon her, and in that haunting silence, a chilling truth began to surface. What would she uncover within herself when the deepest fears emerged? What hidden darkness awaited her beneath the layers of grief and betrayal? As the creature loomed closer, Rachel's heart raced. The darkness around them dampened her instincts. Would it strike? Would she fail? Each breath felt labored, drowning in fear and uncertainty, and then, it spoke again, its voice subdued, almost contemplative. You want to break the cycle, little one? What makes you think it can be broken? How can hope mend the cracks of despair that have carved through ancient bonds? Rachel's stomach twisted, but she couldn't back down. Because I believe in second chances. The pain doesn't have to bury you. Let their stories flow, let them be heard. The creature seemed intrigued, its eyes narrowing as if searching her soul. But around them, the spirits stirred restlessly, their whispers echoing like a haunting melody. Rachel felt their sorrow intertwine with her own, a dance of agony that threatened to engulf her. Yet she stood firm, the flicker of hope igniting into a flame. Every story deserves to be told, she asserted, her voice rising. Every spirit a chance to find peace. Your sorrow is not just yours. It's a weight we can all share. The growl morphed into a rumbling chuckle, an unsettling sound that echoed around the cavern. You are bold, living one. You presume to know what it is to carry a burden? Let me show you. Suddenly, the water surged violently. Memories spilled forth like a flood, each one more vivid than the last. Rachel was pulled into a whirlwind of shadows, witnessing betrayals that pierced souls, love twisted into hatred, and hope shattered like glass. She gasped as pain filled her veins, each moment a cut deeper than the last. She stumbled, clutching her chest as the memories forcibly invaded her mind. Please, she gasped, don't drown me in this. But the torrent wouldn't relent. Feel it. The creature bellowed, its voice a cacophony of rage and sorrow. Feel the weight that lies at the bottom of this lake. Only then will you earn your right to speak. Rachel's vision blurred as she fought against the tide of anguish. But as despair tangled tighter around her throat, she dug deep within herself. She thought of her own scars, of loneliness that consumed her, but also of moments where kindness broke through. Those small sparks of joy startled her. Why was she not focused on those? I refuse to let pain define me. She cried out, breaking through the chaos. I refuse to drown in sorrow. In that assertion, the water swirled and twisted, and she felt a jolt. The cavern trembled, the spirits paused in astonishment. Light sparkled momentarily, refracting through the water like a distress signal. For a heartbeat, silence reigned in the depths. The creature's form began to shift, its ferocity retreating just slightly. What is this? It hissed, a flash of vulnerability creeping into its cold eyes. It's possibility. Rachel exclaimed, her heart racing with a newfound energy. If you let them share their pain, you can learn to release it. Together, we can weave hope from the broken threads of betrayal. A flicker of doubt crossed the creature's features, briefly revealed in flesh and bone as its darkness twisted. And what if I fall back into despair? It is a slippery path. Then let me guide you, she urged, reaching out instinctively. Together, we can steady each other. And just like that, a flicker of the past returned a memory of someone reaching out to her as she teetered on the edge of hopelessness. It felt like an echo of her lost days, a connection. Would it be enough to pull this creature out of its self-imposed prison? But before the realization crystallized, the cavern shuddered violently, rippling with an unseen force. An ominous joke from the shadows whispered, fraying the edges of her reward. Something terrible approached, lurking in the folds of the darkness, ready to unmake everything they had started to rebuild. Don't look back, the creature warned, panic rising in its voice, but the very water around them began to churn once more, a sign that something was brewing from the depths. What creature lurked in the darkness, ready to disrupt the fragile bridge they were building? What chaos would unfold now that hope had been ignited in this world of despair? The water surged violently, swirling around Rachel and the creature as shadows loomed ever closer. The whispers of trapped souls grew louder, forming a tempest of fear that clawed at her mind. With every heartbeat, Rachel felt the weight of dread pressing down, threatening to crush her spirit. This wasn't just a battle for her, it was a fight for countless lost souls chained to their pain. Focus! She shouted over the cacophony, straining to be heard, desperate not to lose the fragile moment they had created. We can't let fear bind us. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the depths, of being darker than the void around them. It looked like a wraith, a twisted version of the creature she had been trying to connect with. Its eyes were pinpricks of malevolence, glinting with an urge to destroy everything they had fought for. It stepped forward, displacing the water, and a chill rushed through Rachel's veins. It pointed a bony finger at Rachel. You dare to defy the anguish that binds us? This is not your realm. You have no idea what lies in the depths. I know more than you think. Rachel countered, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. I know that pain has a voice and that it deserves to be heard. The wraith hissed, echoing the growls of the creature beside her. You think you can save them? They are my burden. Each one trapped by their own choices. Glancing at the creature, the wraith sneered, and you, fool, will only drown deeper in their sorrow if you help this girl. With a surge of fury, the creature responded, what do you know of redemption? Your torment is a prison. You keep them shackled to despair, feeding on their darkness. As if in response to this confrontation, the water roared again, and Rachel felt a current pulling at her, threatening to drag her into obscurity. She gripped the stone ledge nearby, peering into the darkness as visions swirled. Faces contorted in agony flashed before her, memories crying for release, begging to be acknowledged. No! Rachel shouted, unwilling to succumb. I want to let them disappear again. With newfound determination, she stepped toward the wraith, the glow of her conviction illuminating the hollow cavern. These are not just lost stories. Their lives, moments, futures shattered. Let me help them, let me help you. The darkness rippled, dark tendrils extending to grasp at her, but she held firm. The creature beside her took a step forward, emboldened by Rachel's bravery. You think you know the burden of carrying a soul? Let me show you. Before Rachel knew it, the water erupted again, dragging her under. She plunged into the icy depths, the sensation of drowning washing over her as memories crashed into her like waves. Searing moments of heartbreak and betrayal surged within her. But as despair clawed at her, a flicker of light pierced through the chaos. These were not just stories of pain, but tales of resilience intertwined within the darkness. I see you. Rachel screamed into the abyss, feeling the echoes of thousands. And you deserve to be known. Suddenly, the shadows jerked away in shock, all eyes turned toward her, both wraith and creature in disbelief. The wraith shrieked, its form flickering like a dying flame. What have you done? You cannot unlock their voices. But Rachel felt a steady pulse of warmth, a bond forming like a lifeline. She reached out to the spirits, her heart tender with compassion. We are connected. Your pain is shared. Let me guide you. Let me show you light amid despair. As she spoke, the water turned calm, the fear that once clung like a vice began to dissolve. But just as the first spirit rose, a dark shadow unfurled from the depths, a monstrous grip that seemed to reach for her. No! The creature roared, trying to shield her. But it was too late. Just as Rachel began to breathe hope, the wraith lunged back toward her, its eyes filled with rage. With a final scream of defiance, Rachel felt the energy surge within her, promising strength, but even as she reached for the emerging light, she knew darkness wouldn't give up easily. What new terror was about to shatter their fragile alliance? Would Rachel be able to hold on to her light, or was the darkness destined to consume them both? Rachel gasped, the icy grip of the shadows tightening around her throat. The wraith's furious hiss echoed in her ears, drowning out the whispers of the spirits that had begun to rally around her. Each soul shimmered faintly, their collective presence casting a fragile glow against the overwhelming darkness. Rachel dared to hope, but then the wraith lunged forward, its shadowy form distorting and elongating as if it were a living nightmare. You think you can save them? You're a fool. It screeched, the sound carrying the weight of centuries of anguish. They belong to me. Rachel stumbled back, the water swirling around her like a wild beast, yet she fought to stand her ground. They don't belong to you. She screamed, her voice righteous and defiant. They belong to themselves and they deserve to be free. With newfound resolve, she reached out her hand, a symbol of compassion and defiance. I can help you too. She called, hoping against hope that the wraith would see reason. You've suffered just as much. Let us face this darkness together. For a split second, the wraith hesitated. Its form flickered, revealing hints of its past, moments of joy that had long been extinguished by pain. Rachel saw it, a memory shimmering within the darkness. There, it was not a monster, but a broken soul lost in heartache. Shut up. The wraith howled, renewing its fury, lashing out with tendrils of cold mist that tried to envelop her. Rachel felt the bite of despair creep in, but she pushed it away, focusing on the light inside her. Remember who you were. She urged, her words like a lifeline tossed into the turbulent water. You're still in there. Don't let the darkness consume you. The creature beside her surged forward, spiraling into a protective stance. You are not so different from us, it growled, its voice imbued with raw power. Let us show this wraith the truth of its existence. The wraith recoiled, thrashing against the encroaching light, but it was fighting against a tide. The spirits gathered around Rachel, their soft glow strengthening her resolve. She felt their histories wash over her joys and sorrows, moments of splendor lost in despair. Don't let him intimidate you. Rachel urged the spirits, her heart racing in rhythm with their own. You are not alone. Just as the wraith writhed in fury, Rachel felt the ground beneath her shift. She looked down, stunned to see dark water vibrate and shatter like glass. Unseen forces trembled, deep fractures spreading outward. The barrier between realms was breaking, and the spirits fluttered with renewed hope. Suddenly, the dark shadow lunged again with a primal scream, launching forward like a vengeful tempest. Rachel felt terror prick at her skin as the full force of its anguish collided with her. The impact knocked the breath from her lungs. Fight it! The creature roared, rallying the spirits as they infused Rachel with their light. She felt them surge inside her, fortifying her body and spirit. This time, she wouldn't cower. Together! Cried Rachel, face set with determination, fists clenched. We will break the chains of despair. The wraith hesitated, confusion flickering across its eerie visage. For the briefest moment, Rachel saw a flicker of recognition, a glimpse of remorse for the pain it inflicted, but before she could seize that moment, a shattering roar erupted from the depths, as if the shadows themselves wanted to reclaim what they lost. The water exploded outward in a blinding spray, swirling around them in a vortex of wrath. Caught in the eye of the storm, Rachel braced herself. Would she and her newfound allies rise against the chaos that threatened to engulf them, or would this battle end in darkness as the wraith unleashed its wrath? As the storm raged, a familiar voice whispered from the shadows, calling her name in mournful tones. Who was reaching out from the darkness? What new threat awaited just beyond the chaos? The darkness swirled violently around Rachel, pulling her deeper into the abyss. The wraith's fury echoed through the waters like a thunderstorm. Shadows cried out, desperate and dissonant, joining in an agonizing chorus of despair. Rachel's heart raced, but amidst the chaos, she felt an unexpected pull. A whisper threaded through the tumult, urging her to focus, to remember. Rachel, find the light. It was almost a memory, a gentle reminder that flickered in her mind like a candle against the dark. Summoning courage from within, Rachel anchored her thoughts. I am not afraid of you. She bellowed, her voice slicing through the madness. Your betrayal does not define you. The wraith recoiled, confusion etched across its twisted features. You cannot change what is what has always been. It howled, fury rising to a boiling point. But Rachel pushed forward, drawing strength from the dark presence beside her. The creature had become her ally, a testament to the truth that even darkness could harbor flickers of hope. Together. She shouted again, rallying the spirits encircling them. A wave of energy surged through their clasped hands, emboldening their souls, drawing against the darkness. The horrific tales of grief and loss they had carried for so long began to weave together into a tapestry of resilience. Your stories are not lost. Rachel cried out in a powerful voice that echoed through the cavern. They deserve to be remembered. We remember the pain, and together, we can reshape it. With her words, the water brightened ever so slightly, a soft glow shimmering beneath the chaotic waves, revealing forgotten joys that lay buried. The faces of the lost began to swirl in a delicate dance, glimmers from their past intertwining with Rachel's promise of freedom. Help us break free. They cried, their once mournful spirits now vibrant with hope. The sound rose like a chorus, filling the cavern with their collective yearning for release. The wraith hesitated. For a moment, Rachel sensed doubt, a flicker of nostalgia reflected in its relentless gaze. You speak of hope? It faltered, its voice trembling. You speak as if it can mend the wounds of betrayal. Yes. Rachel affirmed, every ounce of resolve powering her. But only if you allow it. Let them share their stories, let them confront you as I am now. The wraith's form began to waver, shadowy fingers of despair still gripped at its edges, but flickers of memory danced in the corners of its darkness, and the whispers softened. Memories they haunt me, it admitted, its cruel expression flickering with doubt. Let the past guide you. Rachel urged, pressing on, drawing forth the spirit's energy, their desperation intertwining with her own fear. Together, we can forge a future. Don't you want to break free from this never-ending sorrow? In an explosive surge, the water erupted in a brilliant flash of luminescence. As fragments of stories poured forth, shadows screamed in anguish and rage, while others began to shimmer with light. Each story that emerged added layers of strength to Rachel's voice, each revelation like a thread that bound them all together. Realization began to dawn on the wraith as it watched the transformation unfold around it. You are not afraid, it murmured. You would plunge into darkness willingly? With each word, the wraith's shadows began to dissipate, revealing the raw essence hidden beneath. I was lost, unable to forgive. But I want to let you remain there. Rachel cried, reaching toward it, feeling the warmth she had poured into her words painting the memories of loss into brilliant hues of unity. Only by facing what's broken can we find freedom. And as if drawn by the magnetic force of her conviction, the spirits surged forward, bathing the wraith in their collective light. No! Stay back! The wraith screeched, but the warmth enveloped it, penetrating the veil of despair. Then, in a heartbeat, the shadows fell away entirely. At last, the wraith surrendered, releasing its hold, revealing a being once caught in grief, now illuminated by the light of understanding, a glimmer of compassion shining back at Rachel. You have my apologies," it whispered, voice trembling like newfound hope. "I wish to release them. I never meant to keep them here." Suddenly, the water began to churn and shimmer, tendrils of light spilling outwards like a sunrise breaking over the horizon. The spirits flowed towards the wraith, merging their memories and desires for release, folding into one another. "Together, we can find peace," Rachel continued, her voice steady, a guide through the storm. With that promise, the cavern was awash in light, washing over and flooding the darkness that once reigned supreme. Moments of joy, laughter, and love sprang forth, binding them together like a brilliant tapestry. The lost souls soared, whispering gratitude as they broke free, as echoes of their stories resounded through the air. Rachel felt a fierce rush of warmth envelop her, a mantling glow settling in as she looked at the wraith, no longer a monster, but a kindred spirit, deeply scarred yet yearning for forgiveness. In that moment of unity, everything shifted. The lake, once a cavernous void of anguish, transformed into a cradle of freedom, a haven where stories could heal. As light enveloped them, Rachel's heart lifted with sheer joy, the heaviness of fear receding. The wraith bowed its head, surrendering to comfort, and in an ethereal pulse, the last of the shadows shattered into a million sparkles, ricocheting like a constellation born anew. Later that night, as dawn painted the sky in hues of orange and lavender, Rachel sat quietly on the shores of Lake Hollow, now placid and radiant. The wild man stood beside her, a gentle grin resting on his face, knowing that the weight of history had just been lifted. "Do you think they truly found peace?" Rachel asked, the ripples reflecting her newfound clarity. "Absolutely," he said softly, gazing over the bright waters. "You did the unimaginable. You turned fear into light." Rachel smiled, warmth flooding over her like the sun's embrace. "And what about you? What happens to the darkness?" He chuckled. "We continue to fight it, together. But now there's hope tethered within this lake, and I'll make sure it remains alive." Rachel felt the echoes of bravery in her heart, a connection to the stories she'd uncovered, knowing she was forever changed. The lake would always remember, and she would honor the tales that lived within the depths. "This is goodbye then?" she whispered, her voice trembling on the edge of sorrow. "Not goodbye, but a new beginning," he replied, extending a hand with a sparkle in his eyes. The sun broke free, the lake sparkled from the light, a promise of unbroken stories still lingering in the air. The journey had come to a close, but every breath felt like a new promise. With a final glance at the lake, Rachel understood it wasn't just about what was lost, but about embracing the truth to set them free. Lake Hollow was alive now, a testament to how courage could illuminate even the darkest depths. As the waters rippled in the soft morning breeze, Rachel knew one thing for certain: she would carry these stories in her heart forever, a reminder that even in darkness, hope would bloom. Now, your turn. If you love this conclusion, make sure to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Let us see that love pour in. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let us hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this epic journey ends. Be a true fan and support the channel in these exciting times.